Okay, let's go. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub podcast. I have my friend and partner in crime, Tineiwo, joining me today, and we're just going to talk about a couple of topics, bounce off each other's brains, and see what comes out of it. So, Tia, first, let me just start off with how are you doing today?
Alex, thanks once again, bro. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's a Saturday morning, so can't complain. Last night we had our water out on the streets, and this morning when I woke up, I saw that there was water again. So I was like, whew, blessed.
Oh, and it's early morning as well. I mean, it's early Saturday morning, long weekend ahead.
Yeah.
Nothing better, right?
No, can't complain. But yeah, so I was chatting with a good friend of mine about the topic of self-improvement. And something that I've been on the self-improvement road for, I would say, 7 years. When I was 19, I started trying to work on myself. And something that I noticed is that a lot of self-improvement comes from a place of self-criticism. So not working on yourself because you care about yourself and you want to be better, but more, I want to work on myself because I don't like this about me.
Yeah.
Right. So something that I threw over to him was the concept of self-love, and how when, I was saying, I look at myself like I'm a father to a son, right? When you are raising a son, you say to your son, listen, you need to do this because it's going to be good for you and it's going to make your life better. You don't come from a place of, you have to do this because you're not good enough, and, out of hatred. And I guess it's about the fuel that you use to do the things that you need to do to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Is this something that you've kind of experienced as well in terms of your self-improvement journey?
Yeah. And I think that's a very good way of looking at it, right? I think most of the time when people try to improve themselves, they look at what's wrong, right? But the reality of self-improvement is that it's just an analysis of the three U's. So you've got your spiritual you, you've got your mental you, and then you've got your physical you. And for me, self-improvement is the better aligning of those three. And ensuring that those three are consistent with regards to your character, with regards to who you are, and with regards to who you want to be. And I think that the ultimate journey towards self-improvement is getting closer and closer to yourself. So getting the outer you and the mental you to be the inner you that you see yourself being or wanting to be. So yeah, and that journey doesn't end, because as you can imagine, we are souls at the end of the day, and your soul grows.
Yeah.
Your soul has expectations of the physical and the mental you. And the self-improvement journey is just one of you growing up to the expectations of your soul as it matures and grows due to different life experiences. So yeah, for me, that's what self-improvement is. It's more spiritual than anything, because like I said, it's the alignment of those three. And a very good example I'd like to use, even something like improving yourself academically. The source of that starts with the inner you saying, I want to be smarter, meaning that the inner you wants the mental you to be better. And therefore, in order for the mental you to be better, the physical you needs to come into the picture and perform the action that will allow for that realization to come to life. So yeah, I think that's the correct way to look at self-improvement.
Yeah.
Not saying it's the only way, but I think it's the least self-damaging, if that makes sense. Also kind of the hardest to understand. But also kind of the hardest way to look at it, because you need to have a very mature understanding of what a human being is.
Yes. If I can give you a great example for me personally. So the last month or so, I've made it a personal project of mine to wake up at about 4:40 in the morning every day. And the reason for that is because I want to build a habit of training before work in terms of working out and exercise. And a coach that I work with, we train at 5:30 in the morning, like twice a week. So for me to get to the gym and do all of the things I need to do, I have to wake up at this time. And it's something that I struggled with in the past because I was trying to bully myself into waking up at this time.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't you just do it? Just do it, you know?
Yeah.
Be disciplined. And sometimes I would, and sometimes I wouldn't. And, you know, it's always easy to wake up at that time when you have to meet someone and have an appointment and things like that. But to do it when no one's watching, that is the real test. So I had a mental switch a couple of weeks ago in terms of, and this is part of a bigger thing that I'll touch on with you a bit later as well, but like saying to myself, okay, what do I need to do to make this easy? Instead of forcing myself to do something that is so painful and so uncomfortable that I just can't do it consistently. And I realized I needed to take time. I needed to work towards this wake-up time. I needed to work in increments of like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just gradually. And now, you know, this morning I'm quite proud of myself because I had a late night last night. I went to bed at like 11:30 because I had a friend over and we stayed up late talking. And I woke up this morning at 20 to 5. And I was like, if I want to sleep in, I can. I was like, go for it. No one's gonna judge you or think any less of you. But my inner voice was saying to me, you know what? I'm going to get up for myself because I want to keep my sleep pattern in place. It was from a place of love because I was like, this is what's best for me. And there was such a difference in the way I would have approached it in the past, where in the past I would have said, get up at 4:40, you have to do it. Like, and then if I didn't, I would criticize myself and less of myself and judge myself.
Yeah.
So I guess like the thing that I'm trying to say is it's almost when you approach self-improvement from a place of self-love, everything is light. It's light. You're not feeling this baggage on you of all of your past mistakes and failures and judgments and being harsh on yourself. It's more of a pull than a push. You're pulled forward to improve instead of pushing yourself up this hill. Very different. And it's more sustainable because I think also something that I realized yesterday, and I actually shared a video on our channel about this if anyone wants to go check it out, but on the subject of achievement and how you need to be careful about approaching achievement from the perspective of that if I just achieve everything I think I need to achieve, it's going to solve all my problems. Because it won't. Achievement is very important, but even when you've achieved everything you think you must achieve, those hang-ups that you have about yourself and your, inability to love yourself is still going to be applicable. So, the more you learn to love yourself today, the better the experience is going to be when you do achieve those things. It's going to feel different. Because also, and I'm doing a little bit of a soliloquy here, but let me bring all these ideas together. When you are operating from a place of self-hatred or resentment or I'm not enough, there's always something else for you to criticize about yourself because you'll never be perfect. All right?
Yeah.
So even when you are the super mega star that you want to be, you still won't be happy. You still won't love yourself because even then you won't be perfect. So you might as well start learning how to love yourself now whilst you're climbing the mountain.
Yeah.
And
that's so funny you say that. I was busy writing some notes here. And in my notebook, I have a line I wrote yesterday from a chat that I had with my boss. And he always says to me, success is not only financial. The financial side of it is just a result of consistent action that aligns with a fulfilled need or the fact that you've added value to society. But real success is first working on yourself and making sure that you are the best version of yourself. And to take you to the question that I now have for you, seeing that success can be looked at in so many ways, to what extent do you think your external environment contributes to the amount of self-improvement you want to see yourself improving at?
massively. It has a huge impact on you. Proximity is power. And also, it's about at what point of your life are you in this environment and how long did you stay there? Because we all go through these different seasons where we're very susceptible to influence from people around us. I go back to this thing of the environment you grew up in has a big role to play in the expectations that you set for yourself and your life. If you grow up around people who are ambitious and who work hard, that becomes normal for you and you just don't even think about it. But if you didn't grow up around people like that, I'm not saying it's impossible. Nothing's impossible, but it makes it 10 times more difficult because you have to teach yourself to do those things. It's not something that was taught to you. And I would expand on that by saying this concept of self-love and self-hate and improvement and all of those things. How easily you accept those concepts is driven by the environment that you were raised in. So if you were raised in a supportive environment where you're taught to improve yourself is something that is good and you love yourself and it's not an egotistical thing, then it'll seem natural to you. But if you are raised in an environment where it's all about external validation and achieve to impress others and achieve to get status, the concept of achieving for your own self-fulfillment seems quite ludicrous. It's laughable. It's like, it seems soft. Do you know what I mean? It's like, put your head in the clouds. That's not realistic. But ask yourself at the end of your life, which way is going to give you a more fulfilling experience? You might get 95% of the way that you would have gotten in the other way, but I guarantee you'll enjoy it a hell of a lot more.
Yeah. Interesting. And then my next question for you, based on that, obviously, I think we can clearly all agree that your environment definitely impacts, your ability to improve yourself and how you view self-improvement. With the same question that I asked you about your environment, how big of impact do you think your spirituality is in that realm?
Well,
do you think it contributes? Do you think it's something that's just an addition to your environmental influences that allows for you to maybe improve at a better rate? Or do you think that
spirituality is very interesting because I think it's an umbrella term that has a lot of things that fits under it, because the quickest assumption a person would make about spirituality is that it's inherently linked to religion. But there's a lot of people who are not religious that are very spiritual because they're still tapping into that energy. Labels are stupid. You might be following all the principles of a religious life without knowing that it is that, just because you're spiritual. I think spirituality is very, very important. It's kind of like soul fuel, but it's also about how mature you are in your approach to it. Because I think you and I touched on this on another episode, but most people never choose their own religions. Most people never choose it. They're born into it, and they don't ever question it. And I don't judge people for that. But I think if you never question it, you can never reach a place where you choose it for yourself. You just accept it on you. And if you never chose it for yourself, I think you're missing something there. You're missing a level to your spirituality. And I think it's something that you have to do. So to bring it full circle, I feel like your spirituality is something that you can use to buffer yourself to the external environment. It's like an inner guide that can really, it's also like intuition, and your soul can really guide you. It really can. But you have to listen to it.
I like that. I like that, dude. So basically, from my understanding of how I answered the question, you're saying that firstly, you don't need to be spiritual to improve yourself. Um, Purely because being spiritual is a matter of two things. Number one, you being spiritual, i.e., practicing your religion consciously, right, and doing the things that allow for you to improve yourself based on your faith and your influence in your external environment. That's number one. And then there's number two, you being spiritual without knowing it, right? But just through you doing it subconsciously, benefiting from being a good person and doing the right things.
Yeah.
And ultimately through that, becoming successful. So I find it quite interesting that like the universe is not picky, right? The universe doesn't always look at your heart or your intentions. It looks at your actions too.
100%.
And then rewards you accordingly. And i.e. back to the point I said, you don't have to be religious or spiritual to be successful. You just have to do the right things.
But I would push back a little bit. Like I'm not 100% saying that, because it depends on your definition of success.
Yeah.
You can get material success without being spiritual, but I don't think you would be fulfilled as a person without spirituality. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. It's like, you have to be very careful about labels. Like, what is success? Is it successful when you are incredibly wealthy, but you are morally empty and you don't have love in your life and your interpersonal relationships are all a mess? Everything's transactional. It's not success to me.
Yeah.
Spirituality is important. But what I meant to say is, like, I don't want to link spirituality and religion one in one, because I think spirituality is an umbrella that's bigger than that. I think religion is a part of it. I just think religion is a vehicle for it. Remember, religion is basically knowledge and wisdom that's been passed from thousands and thousands of years, that is meant to serve as a guide of how to live a good life when it's been done correctly. People get caught up in the technical details, and it causes a lot of conflict between tribes because we like to make it us versus them. It's a natural thing. I'm Christian, you are Muslim, so we need to fight. But then you're this version of Christian and you're that version of Christian, so we need to fight. And it's like, makes no sense. It's stupid, So that's my thing. If my definition of success is, yes, financial achievements, societal achievements, but also like interpersonal relationships are strong. My view of myself, like, how do I feel when I go to bed at night? Am I peace, or is there something that's bothering me?
That's what I mean. Wow. And I mean, I guess, if we look at reality, right, and what I think everyone can agree to, regardless of what your take on success is that how you relate to others definitely contributes to how you feel about your life, right? Because you can have everything, but if you don't have good standing relationships with those close to you, then success basically becomes worth nothing, dude.
Who are you going to share it with? Sitting on your yacht by yourself is only nice for a couple of weeks, and then everyone else is working. Everyone else is So
I don't even think a week. I don't even think a couple of weeks. I think a couple of days before you go.
100%. 100%.
Cool. No, interesting, dude. Interesting. And I have one more question for you, dude.
Yes.
From my end. Yeah. This is more economy related.
Sure.
More specifically related to South Africa. So, I mean, obviously, I think you've been seeing what's happening with regards to how municipalities are being run and stuff. I mean, just now you were speaking about water.
Yeah.
Before I get into my question, what exactly happened with the water in your area?
So I believe a substation exploded, or something happened where it went down, and there wasn't electricity going to the system that was powering the water supply. And I honestly thought it was going to be out for a while, because we've had water issues before, and this one was thankfully just one night. But I'm going to let you finish your question, and then I'll talk to you about what my thoughts are. But yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, the question that now leads me to what I wanted to ask you is, you know, what was your thought process like going through, firstly, the water going, and then maintaining your expectations of what might happen afterwards? Because the reason I ask you that is I've seen a lot of people around me kind of like base their overall happiness based on what's happening around them from a economic or governmental or municipal level. So
Sure.
my question to you is, from when the water went out, did your level of happiness change?
You know what? There's obviously like mild frustration, but my level of happiness did not change. Honestly, the first thing that I thought when that happened was, I hope people remember this when it comes time to vote. That was my whole thing, because I was having a conversation with my family the other day, and I was saying, in South Africa, when it comes from a political perspective, we've had a lot of people who are very good at tearing things down, but they don't build afterwards. So, it takes a day or a moment to burn something down, but it takes a long time to build afterwards.
Yeah,
We need to start talking about building instead of destroying things that we don't like. If you want to burn something down that you don't like, feel free, but do that after you build other stuff first. Because there's people who don't have water, and there's people who don't have electricity, and there's people who are living in the street. Let's build for them first before we worry about the stuff that offends us from the past, because that's more important. Yeah, that is honestly what I thought yesterday. I was thinking, the more frustrated people get at the failure of the people who are running the show, the better, because nothing changes without frustration. And so I actually was a little bit happy, because I was like, yes, good. Now we see, look at what is going on. Why is it that in other places of the world, no one ever has to worry about water and electricity? It's 2020. Why is it so complicated? Why is it so difficult?
Basic need.
Yeah, sorry. You're saying?
No, interesting, dude. I mean, I just had to ask you that question because I know most of the time when something goes wrong in terms of like electricity or water, I think you can agree, most people like write off that day or that weekend because it's a basic need, right? It interrupts how you live your life.
Yeah, of
You can't
course.
brush your teeth, you can't make your coffee, you can't water your garden,
Sucks.
and it just cascades. Yeah, exactly. So I think your outlook is very unique in the sense that it doesn't affect your overall level of happiness. And I think that also comes from acknowledging that this is out of your control, right?
Yeah.
And irregardless of how long we,
100%. You can get angry, but it's not going to change.
Yeah.
Be angry when you vote. That's what I say. And if you don't vote, don't complain, because then you're not doing anything to change it. There's a lot of people in our country who don't vote. They just don't vote. And that, for me, that's the thing of, when you're in a group of people and there's somebody who complains about everything, but as soon as you say, okay, let's go and fix it, they just say, no, I don't want to do that. Why should I do that?
Yeah. Interesting, dude. So the reason why I asked you that question is because I was reading some very interesting articles. So obviously, I think we're both passionate about Africa in general and South Africa and the African continent. So I regularly try to read around, obviously, what the global sentiment is on Africa, where wealth is going, is it flowing in, is it flowing out, what's happening from an immigration perspective. Mm-hmm. And on Saturday, I came through a very interesting article, and I'll send you the article once we're done this call. But the theme of the topic is called millionaire migrations. Right, and what this picture basically shows you, it tells you, is the amount of millionaires within the different continents that are migrating, where they're leaving, and where they're going to.
Sure.
And what I found very interesting about this article was the fact that the number of millionaires leaving South Africa, as an example, is one of the least in the world if you compare ourselves to countries relative the same population size as us.
Interesting.
So I'll give you an example. It looks at the last 9 months, right? And it says here, it looks at 2015 to 2023, not 9 months. So it looks at the last 7 years, 8 years. And it basically says here that $500 million millionaires have left South Africa. In the very same contrast, if you look at Brazil, 1,200 have left Brazil. If you look at it from a UK context, 3,200 millionaires have left the UK. 17,000 have left China. 7,500 have left India. Most of them are going to the UAE, Australia, and the US. Right? And what I found very amusing about this article is if I look at South Africans in particular, 7 out of 10 South Africans that I know are leaving South Africa and going to the UK.
Yeah. Or Australia.
Australia. So based on this article, Australia might be a fit, right? Because that's where people are flowing to. But as a South African, you leave South Africa, you go to the UK, where the UK...
Everyone's leaving.
And when I was there, I was quite shocked to see how the UK state itself is failing, right? So the NHS is collapsing.
100%.
Their power grid is also starting to fail. They also get load shedding in certain areas, right?
Sure.
But they don't publicize it as much as we do.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it's a slow burn on that end. Yes, it's easier to survive, it's easier to get a job, but you might just be running back to the same problem that you're currently in. Yes. And taking yourself 7-10 steps back, because you might make progress today and in 5 years be in a better position.
100%.
But from an economical standpoint, you'll be back in the same place that you ran away from 5 years.
It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point.
So,
I have an opinion. I mean, it's just my thoughts on why a lot of South African millionaires maybe don't leave. And I think one of the biggest reasons for it is because the standard of living that they can get in South Africa is far superior to the standard of living they can get somewhere else. And the rand is so weak that if you leave, your wealth base is just going to diminish dramatically. And then the third thing is, when you have wealth, you obviously have connections and a network that's taken you a lifetime to build in this country.
Yeah.
And when you leave, they generally don't come with you. So
I
think they are relatively buffered to a lot of the day-to-day problems that ordinary South Africans will experience. And the thing is, that's not to villainize them. That's to say the average experience for a South African is bad. The public facilities are terrible. And why? It's not that there's not enough money. There is enough money. It's just the way it gets spent doesn't go to where it's supposed to be. And that's my thing. The typical politician will say, we don't have enough money to do this, we need to raise the taxes. That's the number one thing they say. They don't say we're not spending our money correctly. They don't say we need to plug the leaks between what we receive and what gets to the end user.
Yeah.
And there's no transparency and accountability. That's my thing. So, I mean, we as citizens of South Africa, we have to hold people accountable. We have to create a need for a more ethical and efficient politician, because the politician, it rises in response to the need of the people. So what you expect is what you're going to get. That's how it works. So we have to raise our expectations.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Sure, that's well said, eh? So basically what you're saying is that the quality of the politician depends upon the quality of the expectations from the politician.
Yes.
That's lower your expectations?
100%. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say, it's like, what do you reward in your politicians with your votes? What do you reward? Yeah. When you reward people that speak to destruction and anger and division, that's what they're going to do, because they are just trying to get in power. But if you reward people who are intelligent and constructive and positive and they want to improve things, that's what you're going to get. So what do you want to reward? It's like a child. If you give your child a sweet when they cry, you teach them to cry. Or when you give your child a sweet when they throw a tantrum, you teach them to throw a tantrum.
Yeah.
You say, no, I don't respond to that kind of behavior. I only reward positive behavior. That's what you're going to get. And it's the same with politics, So that's why I want us to have a conversation as South Africans about not, everything is screwed and ruined and we must just leave and it's hopeless. No.
Yeah.
Change the conversation. Because the truth is there are success stories all around the country that no one talks about. Think about that gentleman in KwaZulu-Natal from the DA who's running a municipality. The young white guy who's fluent in Zulu, who's changing the whole landscape there. And the community loves him because he's doing his job. And now they're going to reward that behavior because whenever a vote comes, they're going to keep voting for him. So now everyone around that area sees, if I want power, I must just do my job.
Yeah. Yeah. It cascades, it's a knock-on effect.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I say we need to change the conversation, because if we talk more about those stories, someone on the other side of the country will hear it and say, you know what, maybe everything's not so bad. Maybe there is hope,
And maybe that's a need in society, maybe that we can look at exploring, right? How do we find these unique stories and chat about them and share them with the average South African, right? Because I think another thing that sucks about society or our generation is that people don't read, I'm not a big fan of the news, but I do think there's a certain part of the news that you need to watch and just keep yourself aware of, because not everything is an agenda, right? Some of it is stuff that you need to know. Yeah. And there's just no platform that shares these things in the form of communication that the average South African can consume it and receive it. So maybe that's another opportunity we should maybe look at exploring and discussing, right? How do we integrate 5 or 10 minutes within our chats, even if it's here, to talk about and highlight actually amazing stories within our South African economy that will inspire you to stay and that will inspire you to hold those above you accountable. Set our expectations can make the people above us deliver better.
You can call it South African.
I really like that story.
South African success stories. Weekly news.
Literally
highlighting things.
Literally. I think this story, I don't know about it.
Yeah.
Right, but I can't wait to go read about it after this. And I read a lot, but I'm thinking to myself, how did I not come across this story?
It's not the only one. There's lots of people around. The thing is as well, it's like people like to talk about the news and they say, oh, I don't like reading the news because it's just problems and drama and explosions and death and all of these things. But why do people click on those stories? They're rewarding that behavior from the news outlets. If you don't want the news to talk about that stuff or just focus on that stuff, don't read it. Read other stuff. The one time that they give you a positive story, go and read that. That's how you're going to get more of that. But I wanted to touch on something with you that a book that I've been reading, which I think really make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So everyone that has been around me for the last couple of weeks has had to listen to me talk about this book. So I feel sorry for them.
Okay.
If they pick it up, I think it'll improve their lives as well. But it's I've actually got it right here, and I keep it on my desk all the time now. It's called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole Pereira. Nicole Pereira, right? And she has this Instagram account called The Holistic Psychologist. If anyone's listening and Googles it, they'll find it. It's quite
I'm Googling it right now.
And she's amazing in terms of she's a psychologist and she has this approach to healing that I've never come across before, because she takes in various different tools from various different schools of therapy and philosophy, and she incorporates it into this holistic approach. And basically, one of the big concepts that she talks about is healing your inner child, right? So she talks about how, as adults, we are all carrying around this inner child within us. And a lot of our behavioral patterns is driven by the experiences of that inner child. So, to link this to what we were saying earlier about environment, at a very young age, you are not self-aware enough to choose your own behaviors. You're essentially a sponge. So a lot of the things that you see and observe, you're going to incorporate into yourself. You might go in the opposite direction, in terms of polar extremes. But the thing that I find fascinating about it is that it's rooted in mindfulness and awareness, self-awareness. So like a good example is if you are somebody who is prone to temper outbursts, you have a short temper, there's an incredibly high chance that you experienced a person in your youth that had a temper like that, because you learned from that person that this is how you respond to anger. If you get angry, you explode. That's how that's how you express it. You don't use emotional regulation. And emotional regulation, for people who don't know what emotional regulation is, it is essentially when you experience an emotion, you acknowledge it, you work through it, and then you choose how you're going to respond from a place that is not rooted in emotion. So, for example, somebody upsets you, you have an experience of conflict in an interpersonal relationship, and you feel yourself reaching your limit of anger or emotion. Emotional regulation is taking a moment and stopping and saying, I have to take a moment for myself. I'm really angry. Can't. Instead of exploding on that person and saying something that you know is going to hurt them, and then regretting it at a later stage. That's just one example of a behavioral pattern that is common amongst people that's mostly driven from a childhood experience. So in this book, How to Do the Work, she phrases this term being a self-healer, in the sense that you can go to a therapist, you can go to a psychologist, but no one will be able to heal you if you don't do it yourself. You have to drive that healing process, and it's a daily experience. And it's cool because we spoke about self-love from self-improvement from a place of self-love. This is a big part of that, because for example, if you are somebody who soothes emotional stress with a behavioral pattern like eating or distraction or a lot of things, doing the work is acknowledging that those were the tools that you had available to you. It's not shaming yourself, but it's making a better choice for yourself today. Saying, you know what, I understand that I was overwhelmed. Let me see if I can do a better practice of managing this. So look, that's my take on the book. It's fantastic. I urge anybody who's listening to this, pick up the book, read it. I had it on my shelf for a year. It got recommended to me, and I read the first chapter and I thought, I'm not ready for this process of doing this work, if I'm honest with myself. In the things I said, I don't want to read this. This is boring, whatever, put it on the shelf. But actually, I was like, I'm not ready to commit to this process. But I started working on it about a month ago, and it has had an incredible shift on my whole mentality to self-improvement. Going from, I need to improve myself because I'm not good enough in this, I'm not good enough in that, to rather being like, I need to improve myself because I love myself, like a father
Yeah.
does, because that's going to make my life better, and it's dramatically different.
Sure. And I like it. I like what you touched on this term. I made some notes. Emotional regulation.
Mm,
Sure. I think that's the perfect way to just summarize the best way to manage yourself as a human being, right? And I
yes.
like the 3 steps that you spoke about, like, to regulate your emotions, you first need to acknowledge it,
Mm,
take a moment, and then respectfully address it.
yes.
Right? And I think that alone allows for you to work with others better, number one. And number two, heal your inner child. Like you were saying, if you are used to having these emotional outbursts because you saw it from someone one day,
Mm,
this practice alone solves all of that in an instant. So for me, that's the hidden gem that I've taken from this. And I'm gonna definitely gonna go get myself that book and just flip through it and try to see what I can take out of it. But wow, that is extremely powerful.
yeah, Dr. Nicole Lepereira, if you want to give me some commission, just let me
Yeah.
know.
Jeez, dude. That's very, very, very powerful. And I think that terms like this are not easy to come across, eh?
No, no,
I mean, I think a lot of people overcomplicate this process of emotional regulation. It's not a easy a common skill.
no. It's very rare. A lot of people will die having never learned that skill, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah,
so, it's such a damn shame because I feel like it should be required learning for everybody from birth. Like,
yeah,
throw out all of the school subjects and just teach people this. If you can
yeah.
teach them this, you will dramatically improve the world.
Sure. That is powerful. That is powerful.
Uh,
That is damn powerful.
yeah, and I think that's actually a great place for us to wrap up this episode. Keep it short and
Yeah,
sweet. Um,
yeah.
Next week we'll do another one, and I'm sure we'll bring a lot of interesting new topics. But yeah, everyone, I just want to say thank you for listening to this episode. And T, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy and you've got a lot on your plate. It's always a privilege and a pleasure. And yeah, man, I really appreciate you.
No, and thanks you, Alex. I mean, like I said, these conversations are charging. So thanks for having me on as well. And yeah, I mean, let's keep it going. Let's have as many good conversations as we can. And let's use this as a fuel that we need to continue getting through the week. So thank you. And I appreciate you as well.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Until next time, have a good one.
Cheers, guys.